This is Ultimate. Today's lesson, we're going to learn about different wire gauges and how to use them, where they go. On here, in your electrical panel, see this one's 15. This one's 20. 20, 15, 15, 20, 30, and 50. And so on and so forth. 15 amps, they get 14 wire. 20 amps get 12 wire. 30 amps get 10 wire. 50 amps get 6 wire. The lower the number, the thicker the wire will be. Now, let's see here. A 14 wire for the 15 amp. If there's so much certain feet, the voltage will drop. Oh, speaking of voltage, each one of these rows is 120 volts. So when you have a double pole breaker, you're actually getting, it's not just 120, 120. You know, they're going zigzag behind here. Anyway, double pole breaker, it's a 240 volt. These single ones are 120. The only time you really need like a double pole is if you're hooking up a range, anything that's an electrical range, I should say. Anything that's going to draw a lot of power. Let's see. The main wire here also that comes in and feeds the rest of the house. This is also, I don't know if you can see it, but it's a 200 amp breaker. The main breaker is usually at the top of the box, which will shut off and turn on all the rest of them below it. Now, some older houses might not have that. But anyway, that's beside the point. This is aluminum service wire. It comes from the street. Powers up your box. You have all your shit here, and then they just go throughout the house. As you see, this wire, I don't even know what that is. That wire, they're older wires, outdated. They probably don't even have a ground wire in it. It's usually two wires, your neutral and your hot, and a ground. But the older wires, they don't have a ground. It's not how they did it back in the day. That white wire there, that is a 12-2 wire. So that 12-2 wire is more than likely hooked up to a 20 amp breaker somewhere within this breaker box. I mean, you can use 12 wire not only for a 20 amp breaker, you can also use it for a 14 as well. You can always use a thicker wire for whatever the amount of amperage that you're hooking it up to, and a lower amount of amperage. So if you're using 12 wire for a 20 amp breaker, you can also use a 12 wire for a 15 amp breaker. That being said, you can't use a 12 wire for a 30, 40, or 50 amp breaker. You can, but it's very hazardous, and there's just a lot of factors involved and variables, but I wouldn't recommend it at all. If you're going to hook up a 30 amp breaker, use a 10 wire. Thank you.